What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tsla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have CPI coming out first thing in the morning. But before I break things down about all this information, before I talk about the earnings coming out for tomorrow and how all of this could affect the markets, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. And this offer ends in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market right now. So the market had a very, very interesting day. We basically popped in the morning and ended up selling off for the large majority of the day. But then as soon as the FOMC minutes came out, we saw the market starting to pump a bit because this wasn't really what most people were expecting. Most of the Fed members backed another rate hike, and it wasn't really anything new. There was nothing like too substantial or anything too unique that came out relative to before. So the market ended up just seeing this as another confirmation of what it already knew, and the market ended up just liking this, and it just continued to pump. But the question now is, will the market continue this pump? Is the market going to keep going higher, or is the market about to get a big rug pull? And was this pump we saw right now just another fake out? We will find out tomorrow because we have CPI data coming out. And this is going to be even more significant than the FOMC minutes and almost any piece of data coming out for the week. All right, so what is so big about this? Let's first start off with when this is coming out. It's coming out at 8:30 a.m., 1 hour before the market opens in the East Coast. All right, that's going to be very, very important. Core CPI is expected to be going up by 0.3% month over month. If it's just like that, that's going to be decent for the markets. If it's hotter than expected, it's going to be a little bit more bearish. Core CPI year over year is expected to be at 4.1%. If it's something like that or below that, that's going to be bullish. If it's hotter than 4.1%, so if you see like 4.2% or higher for a core, that is going to be bearish for the markets year over year. So make sure you guys are watching this very carefully. Month over month, inflation is expected to be 0.3 to 0.4%. If it's somewhere around there, that's fine. If it's hotter than 0.4, percent, that's going to be more bearish for the markets. And finally, for inflation year over year, if this is 3.6 to 3.7% or below that, that's going to be decent for the market. Anything at 3.8% or higher is going to be bearish. So for CPI, if it's 3.8% for the overall CPI year over year and 4.2% for core year over year or hotter than that, that's going to be bearish for the markets. Anything below those numbers I just named would be okay for the markets, or even like a little bullish if it's lower than that. All right, so I hope this is as clear as possible. You can just screenshot this or just look at this online if you want to see what the forecasts are. We also have initial jobless claims coming out for tomorrow. We have this coming out. We want initial jobless claims to be around 208,000. If it's too hot or too low, that could also be like a little negative for the market. We want this to be very close to expectations. Besides that, that's all the data I'm going to talk about for the time being. So we'll be watching to see what happens with this data and how it ends up affecting the market open. For earnings, I just want to remind you all, tomorrow we have Delta announcing its earnings. We also have Domino's Pizza in the morning. This is all going to come out before the market opens. And after the market closes, we have SGH, and that's pretty much it. For Friday, we have the big bank earnings coming out. And then besides that, for China, there's some news that came out that China has announced that's going to spend $137 billion on infrastructure to boost its economy. That's helped some Chinese tickers for the time being. But will this continue to help us, or many of the Chinese tickers? It may not help it as much because tomorrow CPI is going to be very, very big for the entire market. It's going to affect many different equities. All right, so now let's break down these charts. How are things looking? Well, on SPY, now, because this thing ended up getting a bounce from this level and started to push up, you can actually interpret this as less of a rising wedge and more of a channel now. I can make this adjustment for the time being, but this doesn't guarantee anything because we can always still break below this yellow trend line if inflation is too hot. So what are some important levels to watch for? If we get a hot CPI, if CPI is hotter than expected, right? If we have a hot core, a hot all items CPI, we could see the market get a rug pull. We could see this rug pull right here from this yellow trend line, and we could see the market and we could see the S&P 500 and SPY start sinking. If this thing breaks below 435, there's a risk of it coming all the way back down to 432 to 433. If that fails us, we could be sinking even lower towards the 430 area. If we get a pump, there's actually this gap on SPY. Let me show you where this gap is on SPY. We have a gap all the way up to this 438.37 area. If it breaks this, then 440 is on the table if we're bullish after CPI. So it all depends on the numbers. I wish I could predict them. I can't really predict these numbers, guys. They're very manipulated. Some people call it the CP live for a reason. So I just don't know what it's going to be in its entirety. So we just have to wait for tomorrow before we make any claims. So I went over the bullish and bearish case for SPY. Now what about Tesla? How is Tesla looking? Tesla's looking kind of flat right now. It hasn't really done anything too crazy, anything too significant. If we're bullish tomorrow, you want to see Tesla break and hold 265 at the very least. If it does so, watch 268. If Tesla manages to break those levels, there's potential for it to go all the way up to 272, which is where we have this imbalance. That's the bullish case for Tesla, as we have this nice uptrend that is still trying to be respected. But if Tesla gets a rug pull with the market, we have this imbalance down here at 258 that could end up getting filled, not to mention us coming all the way down towards 255. Those are some levels to be watching for. Uh, is Tesla going to come all the way down to 255, or is Tesla about to break out to 270? That's going to be answered by CPI in the morning, so we'll have to wait and see. Make sure you watch these levels very carefully. For the QQQ, I just wanted to mention that this is looking a bit more bullish. It is still above this overall trend line, and now I may have to redraw this as a channel as well after getting that pump. So this could be adjusted kind of like this, and we may actually be on a bigger channel instead. So if we truly are in this channel, it doesn't really make that big of a difference because it depends on the levels we hold. If CPI causes this to break below 370 and then 368, we're going to turn very bearish and we can see 366. If we're bullish, 372 could be coming for this imbalance, and we could be pushing for 374 above that. Now, from a technical standpoint, this is looking a bit more bullish now as we try to break out. We have a bullish looking daily candle, but nothing is prepared, nothing is guaranteed, or nothing could be like prepared for what's about to be happening tomorrow because when it comes to the way the market moves, it could be very capricious on these CPI days. There are lots of fake outs, lots of traps. So the best thing to do is just wait for the market to open and just be open-minded. So if we're bullish, you want to see this thing break 372 tomorrow. The odds do favor the bulls a little bit on the QQQ. If we're bearish, you want to see a rug pull back below 368. For Apple stock, okay, if we are bullish on Apple, this thing has a gap to fill at 182.5. We could fill that gap if we are very, very bullish on Apple. If we're bearish on Apple, if this thing ends up getting some kind of like rug pull, we could see this thing end up just sinking towards this 178 area. That's going to be very, very key, and we'll be watching that very carefully. So now I just wanted to mention that when it comes to the way Apple's moving, we have to be very open-minded because of the fact that the market is very nuanced and all these different changes are still affecting it. Now, I think for some reason all my lines got deleted. I'm not sure why. I didn't actually delete them, but it doesn't really matter. At this point, guys, if we're bullish on Apple, watch 182 to be broken, 182.5. If we're bearish, you want to see break below 178. That's going to be the big move for tomorrow. We'll see which way it breaks, and I'll have to redraw all these different lines. I'm not sure why they got deleted. Very unusual. But anyways, going back to something such as Nvda. Nvda is also in a very, very interesting place. Looking at Nvda, this is also trying to hold up quite decently. So now we're trying to form a channel instead, just like this, and we will see if we try to get this breakout or not. Uh, if we end up continuing to break out, Nvda technically has the potential to make its way up towards this gap fill at this 470 area. And if that breaks, I could see this thing getting very close to 474. That's a real possibility if Nvda gets this break to the upside. Now, if we're bearish, you want to see Nvda come all the way down to this support trend line down here. So this yellow line right here is going to be acting as our support. If we break below this, we have to break 465 to turn more bearish to come back to this like 461 area, then come all the way back down towards the 450s. So the bearish case would be us breaking below 465 to retest the trend line and breaking to 461. The bullish case would be us breaking 470 and holding it and pushing towards 474. We'll be watching that tomorrow for Nvda, and we will see how that goes. Anyways, now let's talk about how the charts are looking, at least from this perspective. I just want to go over just a couple of them for now. I want to keep this simple and short. For the Russell 2000, we're going to be watching this 176.5 area. If this breaks, 178 is on the table. If we break below 174.6, I could see this thing sinking towards 172.5. Watch those levels very carefully. We will see what CPI causes. When it comes to AMD, this is looking kind of in the middle. It ended up getting a rejection today, so it's looking a bit weaker and kind of flat. So we will see if this thing can try to bounce and hold the 20 EMA. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 107. If that breaks, watch it come down to 105. If you're bullish, you want to see it break and bounce and make its way back up to this 110 area. If that breaks, 112 is on the table because that's the previous level. The VIX is coming down again, continuing to look a bit more bearish, and it also closed below the 200 EMA, which favors the bulls a bit more. But we have the support at 15.83 that's coming, and we'll see if that holds or not. The dollar is continuing to sink a little bit, but it's still kind of flat. So we will see if the dollar bounces or not. It's at support at 105.5. Very, very indecisive. Last but not least, I'm just going to talk about Google and just end it from the last couple of tickers. Google has broken 140, which is a bullish signal. If it keeps going, we could see this thing approaching these highs from right here. So if you look at the daily charts, Google is continuing to look very, very strong. We're going to be watching this level right here around this 145 area if we do continue to break out. So watch 142 as resistance. If it breaks, 145 is on the table. And if it breaks below 140, watch 139 as the next 5 EMA as support. So watch that all very carefully. You're going to be watching all these different levels. If the 10-year gets a bounce from here, this could be bearish for the markets to fill this gap back to 46.5. If it breaks below 45, that will be bearish for the markets. So watch that. Then for Amazon and Meta, I would say that if Amazon breaks 132, we could see this thing push to fill this gap towards 135. And if we're bearish, you want to see it break below 130 to come down to 129. For Meta, if we're bullish, because right now it's looking bullish, we could see this thing trying to break out towards this. Once it breaks 330, we have this previous high right over here. Let me just show you where it is. So the weekly looks like it's forming a cup and handle, but we have this resistance right here at this 330 area. I think it was like right here, 330 on the weekly. This is a key resistance. That's going to be our resistance. If we break that, that could turn really, really bullish. If we end up failing to break this resistance right here, if it comes down below 325, we could see this thing sink towards 320. So watch that very carefully. The weekly is looking bullish on Meta, so there is potential for upside. So we'll be watching this very carefully. Anyways, that's what I have for this video. The market is full of surprises, so we will see what happens after CPI. Could this pump the markets? It could, but it could also cause a rug pull, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, so that's what I have for this video. Get ready for tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow morning to talk about CPI, and then I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.